Hello there, Qckslvrslash here, and today we have a video from Made You Look in the Tier 7 Japanese cruiser, the Myoko. And looking through my playlists, I've realized I don't have a ton of content of the Japanese cruiser line. And I'm not really sure why that is, so I started digging back. I found this game that was submitted in the Myoko and went, perfect. This is what I'm putting up today, and even better that it's a great game. For those of you out there who maybe wonder, when is my video going to go up? Like, I get a lot of replays. I actually saved them all. I've got like 8 versions of the client installed right now, just so I can play older replays like this, coming to us from 0.6.3. And, you know, Made You Look is on a map I hate. I don't know many people who really like Tears of the Desert. The one saving grace is, at least in Domination, it forces people to go somewhere. In Standard Battle or Epicenter, I detest this map. In Domination, it's tolerable, and it actually plays well into a ship like the Myoko. She's got decent range of her guns with 15.6 kilometers. You throw the 10k torpedoes on top of that, and more open spaces, she does really well. And well, it's pretty obvious what is happening. Everyone is kind of agreed that, you know, BC, and you can see that's where the team is going. Well, except Atago and Nagato, who feel, no, we're still going to go to A. And that's fine, people can do what they want, but if that Atago and Nagato start complaining in chat that they were left alone, they only have themselves to blame. Now you can see Made You Look has a buddy in Rommel Draco or Draco, and the Akatsuki, a great little destroyer. So between the two of them, they should be able to pair up and get some decent damage. And looking at what the enemy team's doing, I really do think right now is the time you jump into B and you get control of it. You've got some planes there. Unfortunately, the friendly carrier is seeming to pull back, but if you can just light that enemy destroyer, you know, it doesn't look like the enemy team has very much support for their destroyer in B. Because you have a whole bunch of ships down in A and a whole bunch going up to Charlie. So these are the kind of moments where if you can catch a DD and get him spotted, you really have to prosecute him and make sure he gets kicked out of the battle and sinks to the bottom of the ocean. Of course, though, it has turned into a more standard affair here with the enemy destroyer smoking up, and he's just going to sit there and contest this cap, which is fine enough, I guess, because things are fairly even as far as caps go, but already Made You Look's team has lost one of their destroyers. And that's never good, especially in a match like this, where it's, you know, some tier 9s, a lot of tier 8s. Losing a destroyer like the Kagero really hurts your team, because that's the ship that, you know, can even some of the odds if late game, you know, it ends up being some of the lower tier cruisers against some of the higher ones. The destroyers, you know, are the balancing factor in that. The plus side is they did have an extra DD, so they've still got that potential to eliminate things. And there's the enemy Fletcher. He did have a little bit of support in the form of Atlanta, but he has had to run away. And that's great, because it means they're going to capture B and they can start closing this point gap that losing that DD has got them. What I also find surprising in this one, looking at the map, and uh-oh, don't look now, but there's some torps. Get that rudder over. As I was saying though, looking at the map, that Nagato and Atago, despite being alone, are continuing to push south. And I just don't get it. Like, I'm guessing the Atago is just trying to stay right at the edge of his gun range and kind of lob shells, but he's painting himself into a corner and the enemy team are just going to chase them down. The one plus side is, if the enemy team does go and chase him down, it's pulled a group of enemy ships really far away from the main battle, which is really happening up here between Bravo and Charlie. So that should give these guys to the northeast the advantage, but they've lost another ship in the form of one of the BBs, and it's just doesn't seem to be going well. Thankfully, the enemy Gneisenau there, he's on some little health, and a couple of the other ships have taken some damage. So you can turn this around, but some focus fire really is going to come in handy, and it looks like pretty much everyone has decided this enemy Ibuki is the primary target. Pretty much stationary, sailed through a smoke there, out the other side accidentally, and is caught sitting on to most of the team. Look at his health absolutely evaporate. Now that enemy Gneisenau is still a factor, and there are a couple ships engaging him, but right here we're going to see things start to even up a bit. Another decent hit, you can see Madeyoureadthis is switching to AP. The Ibuki showing just enough side that it's tempting, but with that Tashkent, that's a pretty juicy shot. Side on, not too far away, dangerous destroyer, and Madeyoureadthis makes his volley count, taking about half of the Tashkent's remaining health. And it's probably for the best, since the Ibuki got his rudder over and turned in. And one of the things I will point out that I like that Madeyoureadthis doing is he is looking for ships that he can do damage to. And case in point, 2 Citadels. A lot of people would have just focused in on this Ibuki and shot the AP at him when he was nose in, not really getting anything. Even there, you can see the shells all, ricocheted off the Ibuki. But with that Neptune near you, you know the Neptune can do the damage nose in with that British AP. So pick the targets that you can quickly eliminate. And that's what they did. And the Ibuki's gone, the Atlanta's gone, and the Gneisenau sailing up the side was gone. So things are pretty much even. They've got 2 of the caps that are equal on ships, and they've got a good chunk of the enemy team on the run. A nice little shot there, and a lucky fire on that Tashkent as he disappears, and now it's time to focus the Scharnhorst. The battleship that isn't a battleship, isn't a cruiser, is kind of everything and nothing at the same time. And, well, the Scharnhorst has put himself in a bad position, and he's trying to back away. And I must say, sitting bow in, just backing away, is not a good strategy. You see so many people do it, and there are times where you kind of just have to go bow in and back away. But the Scharnhorst basically sailed to engagement range, stopped with his bow in, and has just been sitting there. And this is what happens, is it can get you into trouble because you're no longer maneuverable. The Scharnhorst is a very fast ship. She should be using that speed, going forward, getting the ship turned when you have the opportunity. It does have that German kind of trolley armor. It's gonna be able to bounce a shot more than likely. Take the one hit, get out of there. Backing away is pretty much useless, and I find it funny here. Madeyoureadthis doesn't have a lot looking at him, and even the Scharnhorst can't seem to pick a target, so Madeyoureadthis has swapped into reverse himself. Unfortunately, those shells kind of tell me that the Scharnhorst knew this, and Madeyoureadthis gets lucky. A lot of them land a little bit short. But he is doing what the Myoko and so many of these Japanese cruisers do so well, and that is just burning things down. One of the other things he mentioned is this is his last game in the Myoko before moving on, and it always seems that your final game in a ship just goes so well. And it's because you've had those games to play, to get used to how the ship plays, to adjust to the aim, and all those things. So if you just got into a ship and it didn't go well, stick with it, get the modules, and get to know the ship before you start criticizing it. Now, I've seen a number of people who just got a vessel, they play one game and go, oh, this thing was complete junk, I don't know why people like it. Normally that would indicate a problem with the player, not the ship itself. Now, eventually, Maybe you play a bunch of games and you just don't like its playstyle and it doesn't gel well with you. That's fine. But so far it seems these Japanese cruisers have been working out pretty well for Madeyoureadthis, and with the number of fires he's lighting, I can only imagine he's loving the 155mm Mogami that you get to replace this. The one downside with Mogami being the thing is enormous, and that's probably the biggest downside to some of these Japanese vessels, is they're big, long vessels. They're, I'd say, typically a bit lower to the water than some of the other nations' counterparts, but that stretched vessel can make finding citadels pretty easy. A nice little finishing shot on the Fletcher that was spotted in Bravo there, and it was needed. You can see this game's kind of flipped around. And all you have left is a Colorado, Pensacola, Myoko, and a Tashkent. And the enemy team has a definite advantage having that Ranger left, and you can look, 3 tier 8s and a tier 7. What is going to work against the enemy team here is they're all spread out. The Hipper was last spotted way down in like I-2, chasing that Otago. The Nagato is alone. The Alabama, is going to have shots on these guys soon, but he's 20 kilometers away. That is a lower percentage shot than, being in close. And the way you get out of a game like this, where you do end up, a ship or 2 behind, is group up and focus down targets, and that's exactly what they're doing right now. Everybody's focusing on the Nagato, and it's just disappearing. The second it's dead, you can guarantee they're pretty much going to turn their attention to the Alabama. And if these 3 ships all work together, I don't think they're going to have any problem winning this one. And just like that, things are even again, though they are down a cap because they held B for so long. They're ahead on points. They can be a little patient here. And when you end up in late game situations like this, know really the kind of time frames you have before, the game ends. If that's your crunch or the points go to the enemy. Pay attention to those things, because quite often, late game, you see people make silly mistakes, and I think it's because they feel rushed. But when you look at the clock and go, oh, I've still got, 7 minutes left, that's tons of time. That's, not too far from half a game when you consider how much time it takes to reach engagement. First volley there, crucially lighting a fire on the Alabama, and fires are these guys' friends. There's another one which is probably going to force the damage control. There it goes, and the Alabama is turning nose in. I think he's tired of the Pensacola, Tashkent, and Madeyoureadthis having the shots. But he has to consider what that Colorado's doing. And unfortunately, the Colorado is starting to wind up on his own. And that's something I would be concerned about, simply because there is a Qckslvrslash somewhere that hasn't been spotted for a while. But the guns all keep firing, and they're all focused on one target. Now the Hipper has shown up to the game, is just around the corner, and quite probably figuring he can make a torpedo run here. Come around the corner, just launch torps into the smoke and things will go well. He obviously doesn't have his Hydra up, or its range is not good enough right now to be detecting Madeyoureadthis, who is swapping to AP, because close in, side-on cruiser, easy pickings. Yeah, they all over-penetrate. Still gets 3,000 damage, and the torps do finish the Hipper off. It's always unfortunate. You get a cruise in that perfect position, and either RNG or just a little off on the aim, and rather than a whole bunch of penetrations into the Citadel, they all just go straight out the other side of the ship. But that's another enemy ship down, and the focus can go back to the Alabama, who really is alone now. The Qckslvrslash, clearly in Charlie, just took the cap. The Ranger, who knows where it is, but his planes didn't get to do much last time they came because you've got a Pensacola and a Myoko, and the Myoko's running defensive AA. Just shred through the planes, despite Madeyoureadthis not actually getting any of them shot down himself. And with that fire burning and the shells going his way, the Alabama's fate is sealed. Now is when you need to start going, alright, points, because you can guarantee that's what the Qckslvrslash is thinking. He managed to, over the course of this game, secure the third cap for his team, and they're closing in on the points despite the fact that Madeyoureadthis' team, or Madeyoureadthis, sorry, I've been saying his name wrong the whole time, that Madeyoureadthis, his team, has been getting kills, but that enemy team just keeps closing on the points. Some good advice from Madeyoureadthis, just telling the Colorado, just sail away. We can get this. The Tashkent looks set to go charging down to Alpha and secure that cap, and the rest of them, well, the Pensacola and Madeyoureadthis, can go straight to Charlie and really try to run down that Qckslvrslash. The Colorado's not going to be useful in that. He's just a sitting target. The only thing I would say is the Colorado really should fall in with the cruisers, simply because of the threat of the Ranger. It's a dive bomber Ranger, and those dive bombers can do some serious damage. Almost 5k off that volley there. Gets a fire. Colorado's almost dead, and there's another bomber squadron coming. So, probably gonna lose the Colorado here. He is healing. He's trying to keep himself alive, but if he goes down, the enemy team is on top on points. Fortunately, the second drop there, not doing as much damage, and, well, the Qckslvrslash is spotted. He starts firing his guns. And I really think this is the Qckslvrslash recognized what was happening. The Tashkent's been spotted by the Rangers' planes. He knows he's about to lose the cap, which means he's no longer going to be going ahead on points. So had he managed to finish off the Colorado there, it might have bought just enough points to keep them in the game. But he gets spotted, and two cruisers are nearby to chase him down. Unfortunately, the Pensacola seems more concerned about his hit points, and he really is the ship you want pressing in there. Well, that just means Madeyoureadthis is going to be the one to do the work. Meanwhile, at the Alpha Cap, the Tashkent pretty much has it captured and has found the enemy Ranger. So, things are a little safer. The Tashkent can probably rip a Ranger apart in no time. And Madeyoureadthis really praying and wishing that he had Hydro. And it always seems to be the case. The game you bring defensive AA, Hydro would have been more useful. The game you bring Hydro, defensive AA would have been more useful. And it can be funny how things like that work out, but at least Madeyoureadthis has dodged the first set of torps. And with him being spotted and capturing Charlie, the Qckslvrslash is clearly running away. I was going to say somewhere up here or somewhere out there. He's got himself back into the cap again. Here comes the next torpedoes, and oh, that was terrible timing with the rudder. Kills the speed, just manages to duck under it. And, well, that's the second volley, so he should be safe now. Now you really wish you had Hydro, because you know the Qckslvrslash is in close. Keeps thinking about throwing those torps, but the smoke is dissipating. It's time for the main guns, and one volley, a third of his health, lights the fire. One more hit like that after the Pensacola's put some damage in, and this Qckslvrslash should be going to the bottom. Fires the guns, and there's the game, picking up high caliber on the way. 30 seconds left. Will the Tashkent manage to kill the Ranger, who looks to be charging? I think the Rangers just said, screw it, I'm going for the Ram. And this one's going to be over. And it was a fun game to watch, and what worked out was them sticking together.
The results really speak for themselves in this one. 422,000 credits, 6,200 experience, Confederate high caliber, 141,000 damage, 152 shells, and only 2 kills, 13 fires, the 2 citadels on the Atlanta. This is really a game where Madeyoureadthis supported the team. He wasn't a top tier ship, and you can't play aggressively when you're not top tier. He fell into a support role, which he played to a T, just working down ships, helping the team kill them. And, you know, proper target choice was pretty crucial there as well. You know, getting some shots into, you know, targets that weren't going to be there for a long time, like the Atlanta. Those 2 citadels basically spelled the end for the Atlanta. And as I said, a number of players would have just kept shooting the Ibuki. So always keep your head on a swivel. Try to find the targets that you can really put the damage into, and it pays off when you can. Top of team, just over 2,700 experience, which is a great base XP rate, and I can understand why it was the last game when you're getting that kind of experience. And when you look at it too, the ships who survived to the end are the ones who all topped the team. The Tashkent being the only top tier ship to actually finish top of team. The rest were all bottom tier ships. And it just goes to show, just because you load into a game and are bottom tier doesn't mean you can't contribute. You see so many people complain about the matchmaker, and to me, games like this, you know, vindicate the 2-tier thing. You can have an impact, as Madeyoureadthis did. And as far as the breakdown on damage, it really is, once again, by committee. And that's what happens when you fall to that support role, where you're just trying to help, you know, burn things down, get damage into things quicker, and get them out of the match. You don't necessarily have a ton of damage to one target. You tend to have smaller amounts of damage to a lot of the targets as the team shifts its focus from one target to the next. And, you know, those 30,000 damage to battleships, very helpful in getting rid of BBs. As far as credits and XP go, just over 344,000 credits taken home, 6,200 experience, finishing the ship off for Madeyoureadthis, and they're on to the Mogami, which I can only assume they're probably having fun in, because it is a fun ship. I haven't gotten through it because I don't seem to play it a lot, because I've had some really bad luck and it's soured the ship a bit for me, but it is a good continuation of the line, and you can do some great damage if you have the opportunity. Anyways, I hope everyone enjoyed this. I certainly did. Thank you for sending this one in to us, Madeyoureadthis. I'm sorry I got your name wrong for the first half of the video. Clearly, I hadn't actually read your name properly. Anyways, if you enjoyed it, please consider giving a thumbs up or subscribing to the channel. And as always, I'm Qckslvrslash, and I'll have another one for you all later.